right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Bishop's Corner TV. And we have a great program ahead of you. Just want to make a few announcements before we get started. So here we go. I'm going to first talk about the appreciation service on the first weekend of August for our Bishop Scott. Is going to be held at his location in Brooklyn, Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. Next, I'm going to go into a few things here. First, I'm hosting a networking event at Bloomingdale's on the 24th of July this month. Starts from 3 to 6 p.m. If you want to just come and meet a few interesting people, this is the place to be and this is the place to go. So you don't want to miss out on that. Next, we have that free community fair, August 24th at 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I was there last year and it was amazing. Of course, you can see we're going to be supporting this event because I just love supporting the community. And I believe that it's a great thing that they're doing over there. It's going to be the back to school giveaway, healthy living, beauty tips, games, and prayer. Okay, free health information and so on and so forth. It's at 1387 East 96th Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11236. So stay tuned for that. Put it on your calendar and don't miss it. All right, next. We have the cruise. That's what I just saw. Yes, the cruise. Liberty Hall Cathedral Praise is having a cruise as well. You want to make sure you catch the boat. Uh, that's a pun. Catch the boat. Okay. It's going to be from 11/8 to 11/16. Make call that's number 347-263-1248 for more information. Also, our Pastor Sam, who's on the panel tonight, he hosts a wealth building seminar, I'll call it, or class, okay, on every first Saturday at 5 p.m. It's 81 Croton Avenue, Ossining, New York, 10562. Or you can go on Zoom and you see the number there. It's 930-930-8181. Password Borak 8181. You want to get some tips on how to grow your wealth, grow your finances. This is the class to take. Of course, they're having again, he's hosting another event called the Journey to the Cross and Beyond Ministries present an evening of jazz and honor. It's going to be on August 3rd, 2024 at 5 p.m. at the Pomona Park Clubhouse, 2 Richard Court in Pomona, New York. You can register at journeyttc.org. And that is it, I think, for announcements tonight. We would love to announce your next event. So if you have anything you want us to announce, please let me know by visiting bcitv.com. All right, now we're going to turn the program over to none other than the Honorable Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, our host. Bishop Scott, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Phil. Certainly, it's a pleasure once again to be on the Bishop's Corner. This is something that I always indeed look forward to. And I just want to say thank you very much, Dr. Phil, for this great opportunity. And we want to thank you for being the visionary for the Bishop's Corner. God bless you one and all. Well, it's time now for me to introduce the panel. And God has blessed us tonight with some handsome, good-looking young men. And we are so happy to have them. First of all, we thank God for Pastor Samuel Brown that's with us tonight. Can we make him feel welcome? God bless you, man of God. Certainly, it's a pleasure once again to have you on the Bishop's Corner. Next, we want to thank the good Lord for Pastor Peter Murdoch that is with us, a golfer in his own right, an excellent hitter of the ball, and we thank God for him. Last but not least, we want to thank God for the man himself that always with us, and he does a tremendous job. None other than Mr. Greg Henry. And certainly, Greg, it's always a pleasure to have you, young man, on the Bishop's Corner. Last but not least, how can we forget the visionary, Dr. Philip Reed, the visionary for the Bishop's Corner. God bless you, Doc. Always indeed a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner. Well, tonight we are looking at part number 4, building healthy habits. Building healthy habits. Subtopic tonight is positive routine, healthy boundaries, self-care. And the scripture that the man of God has given us is 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and the 19th verse. Do you not know that your bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You are not your own. And ladies, gentlemen, not ladies, but gentlemen, that brings us to question number 1. Question number 1. How can establishing positive daily routines improve your overall well-being and relationships? Let me say it again. How can establishing positive daily routines improve your overall well-being and relationships? First of all, let me put that question to Pastor Samuel Brown. Man of God, how say you?
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Bishop, and God bless you, panel, and those who are watching via YouTube. Please make sure you like and share so this can go out to as many people as possible. All right. Yes, Bishop. Routine. Routine. To me, routine is something that you do over and over, and you get the same result. It becomes a channel or a pattern. Good routine will bring great results based on what you want to achieve. So for me personally, in a nutshell, just to kind of summarize that, because there's so many goals and aspirations that we have set for ourselves that, you know, demand us having a routine. I also look at routine as scheduling, scheduling. But we understand that life is, even though you might schedule something, is subject to change because situation can happen, circumstances can happen. But regardless of, the expectation, we always try to put plans in place. So for me personally, I live daily. So when I get up in the morning, there are certain things that I do. For instance, with me, I get up 5 a.m. in the morning and I go in a prayer line to pray, to refresh, and to engage God first. And then after that, then I move on to my daily, things that I do. Like, for instance, I do my trading, or I go to work, or if I have an early event, then I'll attend it. But I make sure that my routine in the morning, the first thing is to engage God, is to get in his presence, is to talk to him, is to communicate with him, to hear what he has to say, is to know that he's still with me, So for me, prayer, the routine of prayer, just know that you get up this time of day every day, not say I'm a Muslim, but I believe that when you start your day with prayer, it goes a long way. So I plug that in as a part of my daily routine.
So, man of God, let me put this question to you. How important is it for you then to create a routine that works for you? It may not work for somebody else, but it works for you. How important is it for us to do that?
Once again, I'm going to say personally, because everyone's different, right? It's important for me because it helps me to condition myself. It helps me to actualize my purpose and to give me a better flow, and also to achieve the goal that I've set for the day. So it's important mentally, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, even physically, as it relates to exercise. Communication also, especially, and let me not say just communicating with God, but communicating with my wife, communicating with my children. So we know where we're going to be at any given time. We know what we are doing. So it helps us to navigate better.
Yes, sir.
And to hold each other responsible and to be accountable.
And that is so important. One of the things that you mentioned that I agree with and I always stress is prayer. And that is something that we should never, ever leave out of our routine. And it came to me just a couple of weeks ago that a scripture that we all know, how Herod took James and killed him. Then he proceeded to take Peter. But when he took James, the church didn't pray. The Bible does not mention that the church prayed. And he died. But when Peter was taken, the church prayed. And God wrought a miracle. So it's as if the Lord spoke to me and said to me, when you don't pray, it's as if you're saying, I got this. I got this. I can take care of this. And in essence, in actuality, we can't. We always need the Lord. Jehoshaphat, a king, and my God, he had 950,000 men. Yet when his back was against the wall, he didn't have it. He had to seek God, and God came through for him. So it doesn't matter what scheduling we have, whatever we are doing, it's important. I think very much important that we make sure that we find time to pray. And Jesus put it this way, that men ought always to pray. Not to play, not to run, not to play golf. I'm sorry, forgive me there, but to pray. I'm just joking with you, man. Okay, let's put that same question to Pastor Peter Murdoch. The question is, how can establishing positive daily routines improve your overall well-being and relationships? Man of God, how say you?
Excited to be on the Bishop Corner again. Thanks, Dr. Phil and Bishop Scott for having us. Panel, I greet you in the wonderful name of Jesus, and those who are joining us online. Again, it's a blessing to be here. Bishop Scott, great question. No pun intended with your joke. I won't mess with you. But healthy routine. I was listening to Pastor Sam. Like you, Pastor Sam, I get up 5 o'clock, and I guess it became routine. Now it's like it just happens. Even if I go to bed late, I still wake up at 5 o'clock. So that routine is already there, and it's ingrained into my psyche, my spirit, and my body just works. That 5 o'clock is like I don't need an alarm clock. I get up. With that routine, I put in, so I don't get anxious for anything. I go to God and make sure I tell him everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the high, the lows, not holding anything from him in prayer. Not only that, too, I like to meditate on the word for a little bit. And I find that when that happens, my day goes better. I'm able to stay more focused or centered. I'm able to minister to people on a better level because I've actually had time with God. So you're actually living off of that overflow with God that you're blessing people with. And knowing that we are body, mind, and spirit, I like to put a little exercise into that. Yes, Bishop Scott, I would like to go golfing, and I'm looking to do that tomorrow morning. I also like cycling. If I turn my video, stationary bike, street bike, I'm a biker. So, so you have to find what works for you to make sure that you're building your body also. It is said that for those of you who preach, if you preach a half an hour sermon, it's like doing 8 hours of work.
Mm.
So, and so often that I see us as spiritual people or body, the faith community, we are more spiritual, but then we forget the physical.
Mm.
It says bodily exercise profited little, but it profits some. So we have to make sure we have that balance of the spiritual, the physical, to make sure your body is taken care of. And I find that now the third part of that, when you have the spiritual, the physical, what happens is it affects your relationships, because I don't snap as easy, I don't get angry as easy because I spent some time with God. I'm more grounded. I actually got some exercise. So, it takes off all those edge, exercise actually have you more relaxed and your body and mind is functioning so much better. You're more patient. You find that you're more peaceful. You're more joyous when you do that. So it actually helps the relationships in your lives when you have all these things in coordination, if that makes sense to you, sir.
Oh, yes, definitely, definitely. Let me put this question to you, man of God. How important is it for consistency? The things that does your body will have to be consistent.
Well, consistency is everything. And if you mention the word routine means consistency. And some of the consistency that we have, we don't like. And some of it, so to get to the point where you end up doing it without thinking about it, you have to build some kind of consistency in your thing. Now I hear Pastor Sam said it earlier that you put it in your schedule, you schedule it. And I think you mentioned boundaries also in your question. I think that we need to create boundaries that will protect us from being inconsistent. Let me explain that. I put boundaries in place. Like if I'm doing certain things, I shut off certain things, I shut the phone off. You might can't get me, because I'm putting that boundary that you need to respect my time, that I need this, because if I don't get this, I'm not going to be any good to you. So therefore, that consistency have to be there. And without it, you cannot build a routine.
Amen to that. Let me put one more question to you, young man. How important is it for you to be your own cheerleader as you're doing X, Y, Z? Because you ain't got nobody out there going, go, 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 Peter, go, Peter. You've got to cheer yourself on.
Excellent question, sir. Excellent question. And this is what I do. Every victory, I stop and celebrate. But I only celebrate for 24 hours. After the next day, I put it behind me. Because I find that so often we live in after 10 years of victory, and that's the only victory we're still talking about. Huh? And we haven't really got a new one yet. And I'm very big on celebrating. I'm in the field of sales also. And I used to have this thing where if I gain a new account or a big account, I would stop for the day. I'm done for the day, and I go out and I'll treat myself to something that I really like. I'll go have a venti chai and just sit back and relax, and and even just read a word, or I go, or I'll have this thing where there's a space by a river, like I like to go to, where there's park, and go there and just hang out and meditate and calm down. I find that's where I find, and I tell you, it's important. Pastor Sam, you hit a nice golf shot that you've been practicing and you can't get it for a long time. Man, nobody's out there with me but the deers and the rabbits, but man, I'm out there. Yes, come on. Yes, so, you don't need others to cheer you on. You have to make sure you encourage yourself, as David had to do. And you always have that in the back of your head, because, if you don't, you find that life become dull and you're not celebrating the victories. So I'm extremely big on celebrating victories, but not only for myself. if I know that my brother has achieved something, I make sure, I spend some time to go celebrate him too, because we're not alone. We're not on this island alone. So it's good that I do it for myself, but I always want to be there for my brother to cheer him on too.
That's why I love you, man. That's why I love
love
Pastor
that.
Sam. I love Peter. Listen, I love you guys, man. I mean, you guys are smart, intelligent. Now, let's put that same question to another intelligent young man that's with us. And the question is this: how can establishing positive daily routines improve your overall well being and relationship? Greg, how say you, sir?
Yes, so good evening and thanks for having me, Bishop, Pastor Samuel Brown. Big up yourself, Pastor Peter, and Dr. Phil. So thank you for having me. Yes. Very important topic. Sometimes you have to be careful when you talk about routine, because people might think that when you get this routine, it's like that's the only thing you have. But you have to have some kind of routine in order to keep yourself intact. I remember somebody said that if you don't stand for something, you die for everything. So one of my routine, like the pastor says, is you get up in the morning, you just say a word of prayer, just to calibrate your system, make sure your system's still in check, right? So that's a good routine because it gives you that, a pulse still there, you send out a text message to God and then pick up the text message, so same still there. So that's the way I do it. I'm a practical person, so I like the practicality. And then I have exercise 3 times a week, of course. When I don't get the 3 times in, most of the time I had an extra day in there. So that routine oftentimes, it makes me better, and I see that it works for me many times, because I just went to the doctor to do my annual, and it looks the same way as it looks the last 10 years. So whatever I am doing, it have to be working. So I think it's very important to have routine or good habits that actually keeps you intact. And sometimes you might have persons in your space or in your life that might not think that your routine is important. Because I can give an example of I remember I was talking to somebody way back, and I'm a person like this, that if I care for you and check for you, I will send you a message, I will give you a call, I will say hello, and I will, So I said, listen, whenever I wake up in the morning, I know that you're there. I go to work before you, and then you go to work after me. When I get to work, I tell you that I'm at work. When you get to work, I need you to tell me that you get to work. It's almost as if I was trying to keep track of her, because she's saying that it seems as if I was trying to track her. But she didn't realize that it's not a tracker. It's just the mere thought that I care. So my routine of checking in, or checking in with somebody, or they checking in with you, it's not so much you're tracking them or keep tabs on them, but you have a routine that is beneficial and healthy for you. And we actually fought over that for a very long time, until one day a mother who lives in a totally different state did not she got up and she fell right by the bedside. Couldn't get the phone, she couldn't reach nobody. It's a good thing her husband worked nights and he came home just in time to find her. Now, during all this time, I'm sending messages like, what's going on? Because I always send her a message like, good morning, Mom. How is you doing? How was your night? And she would respond. This time there was no response. So I'm texting her like, did you hear from Mom? And she's saying, she's all right. Why you worried? I said, I'm not worried. I have a routine, and I'm expecting this routine to go as smooth as it's supposed to. At about 1 o'clock, I get a text message. I know you're waiting. I know you're waiting to hear from me. Don't be alarmed. I'm in the hospital.
Mm.
So I said, you see what I'm talking about? Your mom almost gone. And just because of my routine, she was able to say, I know you're waiting on me. I'm okay. Don't be alarmed. So
Mm.
healthy routines is always something good. Just like the pastor says, for myself and my brothers and sisters. So yes, I think it's very good. And I mean, however you put it, you should have something. Doesn't matter what it is. You should have something that you use for your healthy routine or healthy habits.
And that is so important, Greg, what you said there. Very important. Now, being in your position, I'm sure that every now and then you experience stress. I don't think that there's any one of us that's on tonight that don't know what stress is. And sometimes we get stressed and don't even know it until when we go to bed, we can't even sleep. Question to you, young man, is this: how do you deal with stress?
All right, so some people might do the same thing I do, but I always have low blood pressure. I always have low blood pressure.
Me too.
I think it contributes to my low stress level. Now, I write, I invent, I design, I build, you name it, I do it. So whenever I reach that level where stress is gonna take over, I pull out one of those pages and start writing. Whether it's a song, whether it's a movie script, whatever it is, I channel those kind of stress level into those things, into writing, into fixing things, into coming up with something new. Right. I also listen to music. I love music, all different kind of music, even the one that I don't understand. I listen to it. So I use the resources that I have, that God have blessed me with, to channel my stress into those things, and hence my blood pressure is always low. So that's one of the way I deal with my stress.
Beautiful indeed. Okay, before we should go on to Dr. Phil, let me ask Pastor Samuel Brown and Pastor Murdoch, how do you guys deal with stress? Now, I know that somebody's going to tell me about the swing, but how do you guys deal with stress? Tell me.
Well, stress is a motivational tool for me. And the reason being is because I'm self-motivated. Now, can I go off on the deep end for a minute, if you allow me? I deliberately don't want to give you the answer that is expected. But I will answer the question from a perspective of purpose as it relates to stress. Because preachers, we know, pastors, husbands, men of God, we know. So let me answer it on the perspective of purpose, right? I was preaching Sunday and I use this. One writer said that you must be willing to give up the life you set for yourself for the one that God has planned. And I understood clearly, Bishop, that the good we do today becomes the happiness of our tomorrow, right? And it's simple because most people, if not all people, live, whether physically, intellectually, or morally, in a very restricted circle of their potential being, right? In other words, to do it innately is easy, right? But to do it on purpose is intimidated and it's lonely. Stay with me. I'm talking about stress, how to deal with stress, okay? Now, personally, I acknowledge and I understand that my knowledge of life is limited to the concept of dying or death. Okay. And I also understand that good or ill, life is life. You only realize that though when your life is at risk. Okay. So it brings me down to summarizing the stress and the tension, because I understand that tension is a habit. Okay. Tension is a habit. Relaxing is a habit. Now, we have bad habits, right? And bad habits can be broken. We have good habits, but good habits have to be formed. Okay? Now, tension to me is the pressure that turns into power. So stress is, let me translate stress, good stress, bad stress, indifferent stress, overwhelming stress. Stress can be turned into power. Now, I understand the deal with stress, Bishop, because a man can only change his life, or a man can change his life by simply changing his attitude. Hence, I know then that it's the process that brings the promise into realization. Still talking about stress, okay? Now, we talk about boundaries because boundaries has everything to do with how you deal with stress. Would you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, the boundaries that I've set are to allow myself to be crushed, that the purpose of life be lived out of my house or my temple, my being, my person. So then I realized then that I personally, Bishop, can get in the way with bad habits. Okay? And I can allow my circumstance to recreate what boundaries should be set that will allow me and what I want for me to be realized, and not what God's purpose is for me or for my life. Now, let me use this analogy. Jesus didn't set up any form of walls, but the Bible said he presented himself as a lamb to a slaughter. He opens not his mouth. In other words, he knows that the boundaries that he did not set was the boundaries that was already set for him before the foundation of the world, or better yet, before time began. So when I look at Jesus and how we deal with stress in that aspect of purpose, is that the perfectly made man, Jesus, who was made perfect, now was also made to be crushed. So the unperfectly made man can be perfect. Last thing I will say, and I will go to Jabez. In Chronicles chapter 4, verse 10, I'm talking about stress, managing stress, okay? Jabez, the Bible said that Jabez called unto God, okay, the God of Israel. And here is what he was calling unto God about. He said, "Oh, that thou wouldest heed and enlarge my course. And watch this, and that thy hand might be with me, and that thou wouldest keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me." Right? And the Bible said that God granted him that which he had requested. Now, what is he trying to convey to us? See, he's allowing the bleeding, right? He's allowing the bleeding that he's been bled with from the pressure, right? To propel him and to have a relationship with God, with himself, and with the people around him that will sustain him. So, in other words, instead of him getting bitter, he gets better. Instead of him retaliate in as it relates to setting up boundaries in being defensive, he said, God, I want you to allow me to have this winner attitude where I am motivated by the purpose. So he didn't see the difficult things as a stressor that will destroy him, but he maximized the fact that the stress that comes on him is that he's allowing those stress to become his motivator. Hence, Bishop, I don't believe in being defensive, or, I believe in resistance. Because the Bible said, if you resist the devil, he will flee from you. So resistance to me, it builds me. While me being defensive, it blames me, right? What am I talking about? The Bible said, resist the devil and he will do what? He will flee from you. So when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of God will lift up a standard against him. What is standard? Standard equates the way I live, the way of my life. So I never have to fight for me if I'm doing the right thing. I never have to fight against those who hate me with hatred. All I have to do is love them. So for me, dealing with stress is me allowing the purpose of God to be fulfilled in my life. And that means I must allow others to abuse me, others to mistreat me, others to ostracize me. I don't have to fight them back. I just need to love them. And that's how I relieve stress, by allowing stress to attack me, because I know I'm living out the purpose of God as Jesus did.
Yes, sir.
I just preached.
You were waiting for me to ask you that question. Now let's put that same question out to Pastor Murdoch. Man of God, how do you deal with stress? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, here we go. Thanks for that short answer, Pastor Sam.
I preached.
I see. Yeah, I got a 3-point sermon from that. But simply put, for me, the obvious, which you mentioned already, Bishop, is I'll go for a run. I'll do some kind of exercise. It is a stress reliever. It kind of calms you down. It brings stress down. But one of the things that I've found that works for me is that, simple said, scripture said, Jesus warned us. He said, in this life, you will have tribulations, you'll have struggles, you will have stresses, but he tells us to be of good cheer because what? He has overcome it, right? And so seeing that he has overcome it, most of the times when stress hit me, I find that I run to him, cast all this stress and stuff on him, and I say, God, I can't deal with it. I'm weak. You're strong. I need your help. I need your wisdom. I need something from you because I can't handle it. It's too much for me. And honestly, when I do that honestly, you'll find that I will feel like it just ease off for me. And then all of a sudden a word will come, or some peace will come, and some power will come from the Spirit of God that will inform me on how to handle it and how to overcome it. Because nothing takes Jesus by surprise. It takes us by surprise, So I go to the one who is not surprised about anything, who is the beginning and is the end, and who can help me through my circumstance. And that's all I do, sir.
Amen to that. God bless you, man.
Thank you too, sir.
Okay, let's go over now to the man of God himself, Dr. Phil. Man of God, how can establishing positive daily routines improve your overall well-being and relationships? Man of God.
Bishop, I'm going to take my 15 minutes now.
I think you should do, sir. Amen.
About 15.
And get some
But
golfing into it too.
You can take my
yeah,
advice, make it 30.
I love it. But here's a great thing about this question, right?
Mhm.
You are living in your habit right now. Your life is a result of the habits that you've built, right? Last year I had an encounter with the hospital, and my routine and my habits, came for payment, right? Because I was eating a ton of no good foods. My breakfast in the morning was, sausage, egg, and cheese on a roll. Then I'd have my first cup of coffee with you know, sugary creamers, and I would be doing this every single day. Every day, this was my routine. And then I had a sandwich that had eggs, bacon, sausage, potatoes, ketchup, mayonnaise on a bagel, lettuce and tomatoes too, right?
Killing yourself.
Talking about bad habits, right? We're talking about bad habits. So now, I mean, most of you know this part, but I ended up in the hospital with a sugar level of over 600. I was at 650 something when I went to the hospital. And I was borderlining going into a diabetic coma, right? The doctors were, when I went to the emergency room, they were like in emergency mode. They're like, something is about to happen. We've got to take care of it. What I learned from that experience, though, is that it's not what you do on occasion that matters. Is what you do on a consistent basis. The results of anything you do is based on consistency. Is based on your practices, right? What you make become a part of your lifestyle. And that's where habits can, let me also add this clarification, right? A habit is not just something that you do. It is a part of your lifestyle. It is a deep rooted thing that you practice, and sometimes no matter what's going on, I know people who are diabetic and don't care. They still eat the same way they want to eat. They still buy the same things they want to buy. They don't care about how, if this thing takes their life, they don't care how it affects their family, how it affects the people around them, the people they influence. It's just, well, you live once. And that's their response. Oh, you live once. So, who cares? I'm just going to continue down the road of what I've been doing and not change. So, I think once you realize that's, your core habits is creating the life you're living right now. How you spend money is a habit, right? If you look at your bank statement, you have a cycle on your bank statement. When you go out, when you go to the gym, your gym payment comes out if you go to the gym. When you go on vacation, there's a cycle for that. When your bank statement can tell you exactly what your habits are because of how you spend your money, right? And so sometimes when you end up with, well, I don't know where the money went, or, oh my goodness, I don't have money for my rent, and you bought a Louis Vuitton bag every month. Every month you have a new Louis Vuitton bag, but every month your rent is short. There's a problem. There's a problem with your habits. There's a problem with your routine. And you have to fix that in order to fix the problem that you think you have in your life. If you think you have no money, look at your routine. Look at how you spend your money. Some of us have more than most people make in a lifetime. But because of how we manage our life and how we think about our life, how we perceive our life should be or perceive our life is now, the perception of that creates this habit, and it goes really deep into the psyche of why do you do what you do? Why do I do what I do? Because your cycle is being driven by that insecurity. That insecurity is driving you. It is telling you, you need this because, and you need that because. And if you're making $500 a month, I know I'm sticking to money, but you're making $500 a month, but you're forcing yourself to get a Rolls Royce where your payment is $3,000 a month. What is driving you to break your budget or break your back to the point where you need that?
So that they can rub shoulders with the Joneses. And so look
they
like
can go on the golf course with Peter.
So let me put this question to you, Dr. Phil. Let me put this question to you and also the panel. How do you develop positive habits? How do you develop positive habits?
I'm going to start this one, Bishop. Discipline. You have to say to yourself, what is the value of changing? And why do I want to change? You have to see the value of that and say to yourself, I'm not staying where I am right now. I've got to change my routine. I've got to upgrade my routine. Another part of that is finding a mentor. Find somebody who has mastered it and duplicate their routine. Right? And that has helped me tremendously, finding the right people to partner with and say, how do you do what you do? And what do you do every day? I remember when I first listened to Dwayne Johnson and he was talking about when I had to develop a routine of working out. And I was watching a video of him and he said, I wake up 3 p.m., 3:30 a.m. every morning. And he's like, I'm the first one at the gym. And he said, that was my routine because his schedule for the day was full. And I could relate. I said, I never thought about waking up that early. Now first I was waking up first I was waking up at 4 o'clock. Now I wake up at 3:30 to get ready for the gym for 4 o'clock so that I can maintain that routine. Because it's all about maintenance. It's all about keeping up on what I need to do to even do the basic survival, right? To stay healthy. Value your health above all, because without your health, no matter what else you got, your health will fail you and you won't be able to enjoy it. So yeah, that's a huge priority for me.
Anyone else like to chime in on that question? And the question is, how do you develop positive habits?
Yes. So I will chime in. So getting that mentor is always a good starting point, because one of the reasons why you're looking for a start is because you need somewhere to start from. And sometimes you need somebody to show you the start. So I agree with Dr. Phil that mentor is always a good place to start. Now, for me, it's a little bit different. Just like Pastor Sam, I'm self-motivated. So if I have an habit that I want to build on, first thing I would do is to find out what the result that I want to achieve. What's the result? And as I say before, I exercise. What's the result? The result that I want to achieve when I exercise 3 times a week is when I go to the doctor for the last 10 years, the result is still the same. So if I want to build a habit that, let's say, Dr. Phil with the money. So I'm a person that loves to travel. So if I'm going to travel, I'm not going to travel on a credit card because the money is not mine, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a little savings fund. So I would put my vacation money into that fund. So whenever I want to go on vacation, I would take the money out of the fund, not from the credit card. So the way you build good habit, a healthy habit, is find out what you want to achieve from that habit. And if you can't start one, as Dr. Phil says, find yourself a mentor and go with that. So that's what I say.
Okay, anyone else like to chime in?
You guys are very basic, so I can't be basic, okay? You guys are very practical, so I can't be practical. You gotta be a hard one in the room, okay? So allow me to be that one. You see, everyone to me is a model of consistency for the things that they love to do. Okay? It could be bad habits or good habits, but I recognize that good habits are formed. So if good habits are going to be formed and you are a person who is struggling with the bad ones, then you have to surround yourself with people that you can be vulnerable around. And sometimes we see role models and we want to be like that person, but we are so fearful, and we don't understand that when something intimidates you, it doesn't mean it's evil against you. Because, for instance, Bishop Scott, every time I'm around him, I feel intimidated because he has something that I'm zealous for, not jealous or envious, but zealous. I want to be able to live my life, preach the way he preached, pastor the way he pastor, oversees the way he oversees. So he has something that intimidates me. So when I'm around him, it gives me something that I can look forward to. And I have to be vulnerable enough to say, Bishop, this is working for you. How did you get this done? What are your routines? How can I achieve this? What are some things that you would have me to do? You know, so I'm saying it out of the fact that I'm intimidated of him, but at the same time, I cherish the fact that I'm vulnerable and he's allowing me, and I can allow myself to be vulnerable because my vulnerability is going to bring me to the place of consistency as he is, and then I will achieve what he has for myself.
But you know what, Pastor Sam, you know, if your mentor doesn't intimidate you, then he's not a mentor.
Yeah.
When you walk into the room of your mentor, you should be, you should, yeah, it should be where, okay, let me listen more than talk, right? That's the attitude it is, and it's more of respect than anything else, because you realize that this person has traveled a road that and accomplished something that you want to accomplish, you know. So you know your mentor when you're intimidated. You know, you're in the right room.
The only thing I see here is this particular topic that we're dealing with tonight. We've just touched on question number 1, and all the different questions that I want to ask pertaining to question number 1, I've not even touched on them yet. I'm being honest with you. So can't tell you what to do, Doc. I mean, you're the man, but I think we should
But continue this one. We gotta do. Yeah. You're right, Bishop. Habits run deep.
Okay, we have 3 minutes to go. We've said a lot and we've heard a lot. What should we then take away from tonight's conversation? Pastor Samuel Bryan, man of God, what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
For me, Bishop, is whatever you do will affect those around you. And that we should learn to give up some of ourselves for someone else. And also allow people to be themselves at your expense. In other words, learn to turn the other cheek. And that will help us to deal with stress.
Okay, sounds good. So, okay, let's hear from Greg. What should we take away, young man, from tonight's conversation?
Okay, so what I will take away, we're always gonna have habits, whether it's good or bad. And I will take away that always do the habits that will benefit you, and you can transmit the result so that others can see. So I would take away this, that always be willing to continuously do those habits. Now, persons may not like the habit that you do, but you maintain those results. They might not like it at the given time, but maintain those habits and continue to generate those results. And I guarantee you, they will come around to see the habit that you have been doing for how many years. So that's what I would take away. So always do the habits that can be transmitted over into other persons.
Sure, loud and clear, young man. Okay, Pastor Murdoch, what should we take away, sir?
Okay, so from what we heard tonight, we hear that we have good habits and bad habits. I would say to you, find ways to continue to strengthen the good habits, correction. Find ways to strengthen the good habits, and the bad habits, you find mentors, or my grandmother used to say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Oh,
I run with friends that you know that's going in the good direction. If it's a spending habit, you make sure you find somebody who is, meticulous in spending their money and know how to save and budget and spend right. If it's eat, find somebody that won't force you to go eat that ice cream or that sandwich, but they'll tell you to go eat something healthy with them, because you tend to want to do things that, with your circle. So surround yourself with positive